Welcome to Contemporary Retirement. Contemporary Retirement is a public interest program focused on the retirement community. Every program has segments on legal, financial, and health issues affecting the retirement community. Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a major grant from the Family Heritage Trust Company.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored by Family Heritage Trust Company. The Family Heritage Trust Company is an independent bank chartered trust company established by local professionals to provide fiduciary services, including fee-based investment advice, trust services, retirement planning, and tax planning. The Family Heritage Trust Company is committed to client service in our communities. For more information, call the Family Heritage Trust Company at 301-631-5900.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a grant from R. Thomas Murphy & Associates, P.C. R. Thomas Murphy & Associates is one of Franklin County's leading law firms, emphasizing estate, trust, elder law, and medical assistance planning.
Welcome to the Is It Legal feature on Contemporary Retirement. Is It Legal focuses on the legal issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Tom Murphy from the R. Thomas Murphy Law Firm with offices in Waynesboro, Chambersburg, and McConnellsburg. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Good morning, Mike.
Tom, we're talking a little bit last week about trusts, and the perception is that they work for Medicaid. In fact, these trusts that are routinely sold at hotels are loaded with poison pills and take assets which would have otherwise been protected and put them at risk.
Yeah, it's a big problem, and people don't realize what they're getting into, and they're being sold this really great story about what they do, and in reality, it just doesn't happen.
And on average, it runs 2 to 3 times more money for that trust, which isn't going to work, than we would have charged to do the documents that would have worked.
Exactly. So it's not cost effective to go that route, and worse yet, if you have a long-term care situation, we've got to dump everything out of the trust.
And many times these trusts sold at hotels have poison pills in them. A poison pill might be, it can only be revoked by the person who signed and created the trust. Well, that's the person in a nursing home suffering from dementia.
Exactly. And so you might have the ability to go for eligibility quickly for a married couple, but if you can't do it because the settlor is incapacitated, you've got a problem.
We see some of these poison pills in these canned trusts that say it becomes irrevocable upon the incapacity of the spouse. So now you've actually structurally built in a problem that where the assets could have been protected, that house for instance, now it's in a trust trapped and becoming irrevocable.
Yeah, and that's the problem with these things. The people who are selling them don't know what that language means. They're not concerned about the long-term care issues. They really don't have any idea what's involved.
Well, and oftentimes, Maryland's structural cost of probate's 1%. So you have a $500,000 estate, it's $5,000. It's just not a big deal. On the other hand, the creation of that trust and all the steps necessary can approach that in cost by these canned folks. But more importantly, it puts you at risk for a $10,000 a month nursing home bill because you took a strategy that was focused on a tiny problem and turned it into a big problem.
Exactly. And so most people out there need very simple documents that are powerful and effective, and you don't need to engage in this unless there's a specific reason. And these are just tools, and use the right tool to deal with the problem.
And then, of course, everybody's so fixated on probate avoidance, and I know that you and I see this all the time. We see a trust sitting there that doesn't have anything in it because they never got around to transferring all of the assets, or they were negligent in making sure everything is in there. And then there's a will, and what does that will say?
The will says, well, you're going to pour over or dump all of the assets you owned individually into this trust, which A, means you got to go through probate, and you're adding a step unnecessarily.
So you actually end up going through the probate process to effectuate the tool that you were using to theoretically avoid probate.
Exactly. It makes no sense, and it's twice as expensive. So again, people are just doing it based on a whim or what they heard at some, rubber chicken seminar, and it doesn't make sense.
And of course, we have national pundits who don't do Medicaid work talking about probate avoidance, and we're just sitting there looking at this stuff saying, you are setting these people up for economic disaster. And as I always say tongue-in-cheek, we make more money by writing trusts. If there's a legitimate reason for the trust, we don't have any problem doing it, but it's not an end-all.
Right. I see these hammer salesmen on TV. Basically, their trust product is the best thing going, and I fix one of those about once a month because there's a problem.
And unfortunately, sometimes those canned trusts have these poison pills, and you actually go to court to undo the thing.
They're the worst ones, because then you just take a problem and just magnify it 10 times in cost and complexity.
So one of the things is we as lawyers really looking at this say we have multiple tools, and in each case you look at the toolbox, figure out which tool is the best.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, it might be a trust, but mostly pre-qualification it almost never is.
Exactly, and so it's, you know, our expertise is what's allowing folks to get the best choices available to them.
Tom, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on our
My
program.
pleasure. Thank you.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Few things in life are as important as family. Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
Every life that meets its end leaves a heart for love to mend. Sister, brother, family, friends are left to carry on. When the loss seems more than you can bear, it's nice to know that we'll be there at Douglas A. Fiery Funeral Home. We care.
Call Ed Lowe to help put your mind at ease.
Welcome to special guest feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various issues which are of importance to the retirement community. With me today is Hugh Gordon, Vice President, Program and Development, Interfaith Housing. Welcome to the show, Hugh.
Thank you for having me on the show, Michael.
First of all, what is Interfaith Housing?
Well, we've been in existence for 27 years. We were formed to deal with the issue of affordable housing in our regional footprint, which includes everything into Western Maryland, Frederick County, Anne Arundel County, Prince George's County, and even Southern Pennsylvania.
And so what happened is there's a lot of programs available out there to create affordable housing, but not really a mechanism to do it. No particular company would necessarily have expertise in it, and so your creators is created not-for-profit to figure out how to access those programs.
Yeah, exactly, Michael. It's a niche type of development in and of itself that really does take a special expertise in order to do it well.
And part of it is the economics are not the same as for for-profit development, because
Correct.
you're really looking at the cash flows of the project when you're doing for-profit. But the not-for-profit environment, the government's provided incentives to
Right.
create this programming, and so it doesn't go down the same straight and narrow path that you might see in a for-profit development.
Well, exactly. I mean, we pay the same thing for land and sticks and bricks and for the subcontractors and suppliers. So without the assistance of low-income housing tax credits through the federal government and through the local Department of Housing and Community Development, the state Department of Housing and Community Development, we'd never be able to make it happen.
And so, you know, when you say affordable housing, you know, people oftentimes say low income. That may be a factor in it, but it's really designed to give people the opportunity to get home ownership as well.
Yeah, it's interesting when you see the faces of affordability, Michael, because it can be, you know, a family that for some reason has split apart, and a mother and two children now are on their own. It can be a senior whose husband's passed away. It's not, I think, the typical face that a lot of people see when they think of affordable housing.
All right, we're going to have Director Greg pull some pictures up here, because part of what you're doing is going in and redeveloping. Now, this particular project is in Frederick.
It is, and I'm proud of this one because it's my old elementary school, and we're doing something called adaptive reuse to the existing building. It was built in 1900 as a boys' school originally, and then it went through several iterations in use. But we're going to adapt it and add on to it, as you can see in the picture, and it'll eventually be 59 rental units.
And so redeveloped and still maintaining some of the historical context as well then.
Oh, absolutely. And that was something that was important in the design, because the city wanted us to, not only in the existing building, but in the addition, to make sure that it fit well into the existing community.
And of course, Frederick is really indicative of part of the housing issue here, because downtown Frederick is very expensive.
It is. These are quite an opportunity We just opened up our Sinclair Way community over on West Patrick Street with 71 units. We had 300 applications for those 71 units. There's quite a demand for the affordable housing.
And of course, in Western Maryland, you've also done some senior housing, which I think is really spectacular. Beautiful units, affordable, measured by income, so people who are being strangled by the cost of their individual home that they own can actually live comfortably. Oftentimes, it's a widow, who has a smaller income stream after her spouse passes.
Right. We're looking typically at incomes of 20 to 60% of what's considered the area median income, and it really does provide an opportunity for lower rents that are typical in the area, and create an ability for people to have money for something other than just rent, for food, for transportation, and other personal needs.
And so you try to develop those into highly desirable areas. People think of, a lower cost rental as somehow not a desirable area, but the Francis Murphy in Hagerstown is absolutely one of the most desirable locations you could have.
Oh, absolutely. And when we apply for the tax credits, there are certain requirements in the scoring, which includes accessibility to schools and transportation and shopping. So it's important that we do. Those are typically infill communities, and it is important that they work well in the community.
And so Interfaith Housing has worked almost in our entire viewing area to assist in this. I've been aware of you for many, many years, and I just think what you do is spectacular in terms of the opportunities it provides for people who need affordable housing.
Well, thank you, Michael. It's we like to think that we're providing a very valuable service. We're trying to get the message out so that people have a better understanding of affordable housing and support us in our efforts.
How could they get a hold of you?
Well, they can either reach us at our office, which is at 5301 Buckystown Pike in Frederick, Maryland, 21704, or they can call at 301-662-4225, and that's our office number.
Go on the internet and you'll find all your sites as well.
Oh, I would encourage people to go to www.interfaithhousing.org and look at some of the faces of affordable housing and learn more about what we're doing.
Hugh, thanks for taking time to appear on our program.
Michael, thanks for having me again.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Tranquility at Fredericktown Assisted Living and Memory Care provides a warm, home-like atmosphere that promotes daily life enrichment. At Tranquility, our medical director is a geriatric physician. Our professionals support and understand the various stages associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. We have on-site physical, occupational, and speech therapists, as well as around-the-clock licensed nurses. For more information, give Tranquility at Fredericktown a call today, because everyone deserves great care. Let us do the caregiving so you and your loved one can embrace life again.
Dad, there's the big one. There's the big one. Just wait. There's the monster. Just one more bid on hurleyauctions.com. I got it.
If you haven't visited hurleyauctions.com, you don't know what you're missing. Whether you're buying or selling, antique cars, tractors, boats, or real estate, you can do it all at hurleyauctions.com.
Get to know Dr. Carrie Hesley at Diagnostic Imaging Services.
What I find most rewarding is caring for women through our Women's Imaging Center. We have a caring staff that will ease patients through an ultrasound, bone densitometry, breast biopsy, or mammogram. Our health team is sensitive to emotions involved in women's imaging and understands that every woman is at risk for breast cancer. Providing the community with a center that is so dedicated to breast health and the imaging needs of women is something special.
DIS Women's Imaging Center, providing women with progressive care.
Welcome to Contemporary Health Scene. Contemporary Health Scene focuses on the health issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Toni Nelson, Family Support Coordinator, Board of Education, Washington County. Welcome to the show, Toni.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me.
That's quite a title.
Oh, there's a lot more I have. We'll just keep it at that.
Now, one of the ironies is that elder law attorneys are primarily focused on older folks, but one of the interesting aspects of elder law is because our practice area is the only practice area that routinely deals in the benefits programs, which are not only applicable to older folks, many times to special needs as well. So yours and my paths cross routinely as we're trying to help people deal with planning for special needs. So tell us a little bit about your role with the public schools and helping people in terms of the system.
Well, I'll try to do it in a nutshell, but basically when a parent comes to me for any referral. I tried to guide them through the special ed process from beginning to when the child exits the school system, and that means to help them understand the resources available, what they need to have in place, and the legal aspects of what that child might need, whether they're graduating with a high school diploma or a certificate of attendance, and just to make sure that those things are in place, because the age of majority is at 18, and we find a lot of our families who have intellectually disabled children have not made those arrangements and have not seeked out that resource until something bad happens, and sometimes that's not the time to do it.
Well, one of the things that's changed is that there was a requirement by law that people with special needs be given educational opportunities just as any other person participating in the system.
Now, it's called free and appropriate public education, and we accommodate all students in the school system. We do everything that is appropriate, and making sure that children with special needs are given all those opportunities. Unfortunately, when you leave the school system, you might be able to have a lot of supports in the school system for that child. It's an all-day event, and it's child care and nursing and whatever the case may be for any individual. But when the school system ends, those services end. And you have to have things in place. You have to have a transition plan, and you also have to make sure that you have power of attorney or some kind of legal guardianship, depending on the cognitive level of the student. And you need to do that as soon as possible. And we even talk about residential placement and what's the possibility of that upon completion. But it doesn't happen overnight. And as we know, the world is changing and the budgets are getting tighter. So the sooner that parents start planning those types of things, even though how hard it may be for them, it's very, very important to jump on that. I'd say by the age of 12, no later than 15.
Well, one of the things that we're bearing in mind here, in your role in the public school system, there's an affirmative requirement that the public schools work with these families to give them the equal opportunity. But once they leave the public school system, age 18 or graduation, now there's no affirmative requirement to support that person, so the family has to develop their own plans.
Well, I'm unique in a lot of different ways. I try to work with if families call me, I don't turn anybody down, because I know they need that assistance and they need it to be explained to them. I've worked with many families who are elderly that I might not even have worked with their child, who came to me for help trying to understand the process of going about looking for an attorney or someone to put together a will and a living trust, whatever the case may be. Then we have a conversation, and I give them all the referrals I can, and I say, make sure you, Toni Nelson told them you got to come.
Well, the key to this is the fact is that, you know, many times people's care plan is the parent's going to take care of them, which is fine.
Right.
You know, but we have grandparents that are occasionally engaged in this process. We have to make certain that any inheritance going to the special needs child does not disqualify them for benefits. They do not have to be disinherited. They just have to be dealt with appropriately. And of course, the primary focus always is an appropriate care plan.
Exactly, and that all has to be taken care of. In our workshop, we make sure that parents have that talk with their families. One of the things I instruct families if I work on one-on-one or in our workshop is to make sure that you have that family meeting, I'd say. All family members involved, and then even including aunts, uncles, grandparents, or whatever, to make sure that they understand what the course of action is going to be taken, their role in it, and that everybody is on board.
Toni, I want to thank you for taking time to appear on our program.
My pleasure.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
The Community Foundation continues to create great impact in Frederick County, thanks to generous donors. As our community evolves, so do we. While we don't have a real crystal ball that can predict the future, we are poised and ready to see things differently and help nonprofits, city and county agencies, civic groups, faith-based organizations, businesses, families, and individuals to solve problems within our community.
Albright Crumbacker Mal and Idtel are a full-service firm that provides elder care services, including managing incoming bills, bill payment, depositing checks, balancing bank statements, and preparing, planning, and filing personal tax returns. Put your mind at ease and call us today.
Welcome to the Making Sense feature on contemporary retirement. Making Sense focuses on the financial issues affecting the retirement community. With me today, Sandra Miller, Senior Vice President at the Family Heritage Trust Company. Welcome to the show, Sandra.
Thanks for inviting me, Michael.
Sandy, you know, we talk about the need to be in the market. We were talking last week about the fact that you need your investments to at least match inflation. You're actually losing purchasing power.
That's correct. So part of your portfolio should be in the stock market, which considering what the market does, 3 out of 4 years it goes up, you should at least be participating.
And so oftentimes people get too focused on the negative. They don't realize that many times the market during the course of a year may have a fluctuation, which it may be down 15%. But the reality is 3 out of every 4 years looked in totality for the last 90 years, the market was up.
That's correct. I mean, we can just take a look back at 2016, where in the beginning of the year, the market was down 15%. But by the end of the year, the market actually closed up about 20%. So you had to be there in order to get that excellent return.
12% over the total of the year. And so the reality is that people need to step back and realize that we oftentimes say you have to have several pots of money. You have the pot of money that you're using to go on vacation next month. Do you invest that?
No, you keep that in a money market or something very liquid that you can just grab it.
And we're planning on building a new deck next summer.
Well, you need to keep that liquid enough so that you can pay the bill when the deck bill comes due.
But oftentimes we find most of our retirees refuse to spend more than they make, and so in reality they have pots of money out there that are 5-10-year pots of money. Is that money okay to invest?
Yes, and it should be invested. Just because there is inflation and loss of buying power each year because of inflation will impact the ability for them to use that money for a longer period of time.
And one of the great challenges that we have, we kind of use 2008, 2009 as an example. People look and say, well, the market went way down. But you ask the average person who's not in the market, is it up or down since the bottom in 2009? What do most of them say?
Well, they say it's up. Because it is.
It's up a lot.
That's correct.
And so even if you were just to draw a line during that time, even the performance, even including that trough in it, it's still substantially better than CDs.
Yes, and the one thing people tend to focus in on is only the negative part of the market. But if they take a look at the portfolio, if they've had it over a period of years, they're going to find that they've grown more than they've gone down.
And so oftentimes you just need to educate people. You also need them to have a portfolio that they have confidence in that will participate. And unfortunately, we see many retail style investments are too focused on very narrow sectors, and there is the possibility that it would not participate with the market.
Yes, a lot of people just look at the U.S. market. They just look at the large companies, and if that's a very narrow view, if you are in a fully diverse portfolio where it's geographically diverse, so you've got a little international, a little domestic, and if the companies in that portfolio are of varying sizes, no matter what's going on in the market, part of your portfolio is going to have a positive return, which mitigates some of the volatility.
And of course, as we talked previously, there's pots of money. You
right.
know, the immediate pot doesn't get invested. You know, the interim pot, carefully invested. Long-term pot, you can actually take a view and say, if I'm not likely to use this money for the next 5 years, and 3 out of every 4 years the market is up, why would I not want to participate in that?
That's correct. And a lot of people also worry that their money is going to go to zero before they go to zero, so to speak. And what really happens is they can use that money a little piece at a time to pay their bills, but the bulk of the money is continuing to be invested in that market that's up 3 out of 4 years, and they continue to grow.
And oftentimes I ask people, how much money did you lose on your house in 2009? And most of them say, well, I didn't lose anything. And I say, why didn't you lose anything? You didn't sell it.
That's correct. And if you want to lose money, you have to sell. But staying in the market through the ups and the downs, you get to recover what you've, on paper, seen as a decline pretty quickly. Even in the 2008 debacle, within 15 months, people had gotten their money back and were on their way to what we see today.
And the only people that lost are the people who sold and then bought CDs and locked in their losses.
That's exactly correct.
So oftentimes what we have is that people are not confident in their advisors. They don't fully understand the models that they're invested in. And I know that one of your characteristics is you'll sit and you'll talk and you'll educate the person as long as they're willing to listen.
That's correct. I used to be a third grade teacher, so I have certain skills that seem to work well with clients who would really like to understand the market and how we do our investing here at Family Heritage.
Sandy, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
My pleasure, Michael.
Thank you from Contemporary Retirement.
Remember a more carefree time? Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
These days, it seems like everything's online, and filling out claim forms and receiving and paying bills online isn't always easiest. That's why we at Quality First Insurance encourage you to just give us a call. Let us help.
Hi there, I'm Paul Sweeney with Quality First Insurance, and it's still just this simple. Our offices are open every weekday where you'll be able to call and speak to real, live people.
No detail was missed. I'm so glad that I turned to Quality First Insurance.
I've recommended Quality First Insurance to my friends who've been just as satisfied.
If you're not happy with what you're paying for Medigap, or more importantly, not happy with your service, give us a try. We're locally owned, and we take the time to provide you with the best. We are Quality First Insurance, and our mission is to provide quality products to quality people. Pick up the phone and give us a call today at 800-745-1411.